The 5 Songs of King Wulfharth. A summary of 5 epic songs of King Wulfharth, plus an apocryphal song of the tribunal, Dagoth Ur and Indoril Nerevar. An earlier draft of this text featured the titles Shaw's Tongue and Lord of Solitude in the book title. Shaw's Tongue. The first song of King Wulfharth is ancient, circa 1 E500. After the defeat of the Alessian army at Glenumbria Moors, where King Hogue Merkiller was slain, Wulfharth of Atmora was elected by the Pact of Chieftains. His thu'um was so powerful that he could not verbally swear into the office, and scribes were used to draw up his oaths. Immediately thereafter the scribes wrote down the first new law of his reign, a fiery reinstatement of the traditional Nordic pantheon. The edicts were outlawed, their priests put to the stake, and their halls set ablaze. The shadow of King Borgas had ended for a span. For his zealotry King Wulfharth was called Shaw's Tongue, and is Mer, Dragon of the North. Kaine's Son. The second song of King Wulfharth glorifies his deeds in the eyes of the old gods. He fights the eastern orcs and shouts their chief into hell. He rebuilds the 418th step of High Hrothgar, which had been damaged by a dragon. When he swallowed a thundercloud to keep his army from catching cold, the Nords called him the Breath of Kaine. Old Knocker. The third song of King Wulfharth tells of his death. Orki, an enemy god, had always tried to ruin the Nords, even in Atmora where he stole their years away. Seeing the strength of King Wulfharth, Orki summoned the ghost of Alduin Time-Eater again. Nearly every Nord was eaten down to 6 years old. Boy Wulfharth pleaded to Shaw, the dead chieftain of the gods, to help his people. Shaw's own ghost then fought the Time-Eater on the spirit plane, as he did at the beginning of time. And he won. And Orki's folk, the orcs, were ruined. As boy Wulfharth watched the battle in the sky, he learned a new thu'um. What happens when you shake the dragon just so? He used this new magic to change his people back to normal. In his haste to save so many, though, he shook too many years out on himself. He grew older than the greybeards, and died. The flames of his pyre were said to have reached the hearth of Kaine itself. The Ash King. The fourth song of King Wulfharth tells of his rebirth. The dwarves and devils of the eastern kingdoms had started to fight again, and the Nords hoped they might reclaim their ancient holdings there because of it. They planned an attack, but then gave up, knowing that they had no strong king to lead them. Then in walked the devil of Dagoth, who swore he came in peace. Moreover, he told the Nords a wondrous thing. He knew where the heart of Shaw was. Long ago the chief of the gods had been killed by elfin giants, and they ripped out Shaw's heart and used it as a standard to strike fear into the Nords. This worked until Ysgramor shouted some sense, and the Nords fought back again. Knowing that they were going to lose eventually, the elfin giants hid the heart of Shaw, so that the Nords might never have their god back. But here was the devil of Dagoth with good news. The dwarves and devils of the eastern kingdom had his heart, and this was the reason of their recent unrest. The Nords asked the devil of Dagoth why he might betray his countrymen so, and he said that the devils had betrayed each other since the beginning of time, and this was so. And so the Nords believed him. The tongues sung Shaw's ghost into the world again. Shaw gathered an army as he did of old, and then he sucked in the long-strewn ashes of King Wulfharth and remade him, for he needed a good general. But the devil of Daggoth petitioned to be that general too, and he pointed out his role as the blessed harbinger of this holy war. So Shor had two generals, the Ash King and the devil of Daggoth, and he marched on the eastern kingdoms with all the sons of Skyrim. Red Mountain. The fifth song of King Wulfharth is sad. The survivors of the disaster came back under a red sky. That year is called Sun's Death. The devil of Daggoth had tricked the Nords, for the heart of Shor was not in the eastern kingdoms and had never been there at all. As soon as Shor's army had got to Red Mountain, all the devils and dwarves fell upon them. Their sorcerers lifted the mountain and threw it onto Shor, trapping him underneath Red Mountain until the end of time. They slaughtered the sons of Skyrim, but not before King Wulfharth killed King Dumalakath, the dwarf orc, and doomed his people. Then Veg the devil blasted the Ash King into hell, and it was over. Later, Kaine lifted the ashes of Ismir into the sky, saving him from hell and showing her sons the colour of blood when it is brought by betrayal, and the Nords will never trust another devil again.